What is going on, everyone? Ingrid here. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new. I'm a mom of 3. Oh my god, no I'm not. I'm only mom of 2, but I've got a third one coming on the way. Baby girl. We're 32 weeks pregnant. My brain is barely working, but we are trying to get ahead of the game and make some freezer meals here. I live in New Zealand with my husband, and we eat a lot of food all the time. I love cooking for the most part, and he does not, which is why I need to make freezer meals. So this shepherd's pie is by the Pioneer Woman. It is the most amazing shepherd's pie. It's so delicious, buttery, and all that stuff. But it does require a lot of chopping. The chopping is the most annoying part about this. And since I'm making 2 tonight, I'm making one for dinner and one for the freezer, which has kind of been my habit this trimester. Chopping up all these onions is making me cry like a little baby, so I'm glad you can't see my eyes because I was a watery mess. I don't know how people don't sob every time they cut onions, but anyways. Also, we're gonna do 3 carrots because I'm making 2, so I'm just doubling the recipe. God, I wish I could chop this fast. How great is the fast forward button? Over to my pans. I've got 2 different pans, one for each shepherd's pie that I'm making. You could do it all in one big pan, but I simply don't have a burner or a pan large enough. So anyways, after you get it all nice and brown, I'm gonna drain some of the fat off. It's just a little bit too much before putting in those veggies that we took ages chopping. The potatoes are boiling, by the way. I think I should have mentioned that. Potatoes. Here we go with some garlic. I'm too lazy to chop it with my hands, so I'm just mincing it with my mincer and adding it in. Stir. We're adding half a cup of frozen corn, one of the only vegetables my children like, and a half a cup of frozen peas, which they will probably pick out, but they might not notice it. It's honestly so good that they barely notice. I also found some thyme in our garden, which I was stoked by. Rosemary would be really nice too, but any kind of fresh herb that you can throw in always elevates the dish a bit. It's been about 15 minutes, so I'm gonna drain all those potatoes and then just let them sit in the pot and steam away. Adding some butter. Yeah, I just peeled butter with my fingers, gross. But it's about 2 tablespoons of butter, and swoosh that around before adding in the flour. We're making a roux. I think this is called a roux. I don't know. We're making it thicker, basically. So you put in 2 tablespoons of flour before you add in the beef stock. Once we've got the beef stock in, we are then going to just kind of let this simmer for a while and move on to fixing up the potatoes. So, oh look, more butter. This is why it tastes so good. Cup of milk. And we're gonna get to mashing. Always remember to salt and pepper your food, by the way. Mash away until it's creamy. And we also are gonna add some tasty cheese because the secret is in the cheese, right? Now I like a pretty creamy potato, so I'm gonna go do an arm workout for a while until I get the consistency that I like. I like kind of like that, maybe a few lumps, but time to plate her up. So just put the shepherd's pie, cottage pie, beef mixture on the bottom of each pan. The next step is just piling on these glorious fluffy potatoes. And I tell you what, it is hard not to just scoop them right into my mouth, but I'm showing some restraint. There's a real art here, smoothing things out. And let's get fancy and do the fork trick. I don't know why this is a thing, but I feel like I've seen it somewhere, so I did it too. And we're gonna bake them both. You don't always bake your freezer meals, but we definitely bake this recipe. And look at it bubble, it's so delicious. My mouth is watering just looking at this. Don't forget to write the instructions on the outside of your freezer containers, because if you're anything like me, you will forget immediately how to prepare the meal. This next recipe requires a boatload of pasta, so I'm just cheating by putting my kettle on full and sticking it in the pot. We're going in with this rigatoni, which is so delicious. I love rigatoni. Well, I love all pasta, but rigatoni, big fat pasta pieces, yes please. This is a chicken pasta bake, so unfortunately I have to chop off all this raw chicken, which is disgusting to watch. So I'm gonna fast forward and we'll just say, wow, look at that, it's done. I'm making 2 different ones again, so I'll put it into 2 piles. I'm chopping up a whole bunch of red onion, which isn't as bad as chopping white onion. It doesn't make me cry in the same way, so I feel good about that. Doing 2 large piles, and if my knife skills offend you, I'm sorry. I'm just learning all the time. I'm gonna add some garlic to those piles. I'm using my garlic press because I'm very lazy and don't like the way garlic makes my fingers smell. We're also gonna chop up 2 red capsicums into little bitty pieces. This takes forever, so let's just fast forward. I'm also adding a handful of baby spinach to each of these piles. Time to drain that pasta. I'm gonna be doing a whole nother bag, but I only have 1 big pan, so I'm doing 1 at a time. Oiling up these pans where we're gonna cook all that raw chicken. We're gonna stir it up till it's basically done. Don't forget to salt and pepper your food, people. It's really, really important. Adding in all that chopped onion and a 1.5 cans of this Waddy's pasta sauce. It's totally fine. It's like the really cheap one that you can find at Countdown or Pack and Save, and it does the trick. I'm also adding in 1/2 cup of sour cream, which I guess I failed to record, but there it is. You can see it's making the sauce nice and creamy. And we're gonna add in the rest of those vegetables. Yum, looks so pretty and green, I love it. I'm just gonna transfer everything into this big pot because I don't trust myself if I put the pasta on top of that. I think it would probably go everywhere. So I'll just put this drained pasta into, see, I managed to get it everywhere anyway, so I don't even know why I said that, but we're gonna stir it all together in this large pot before transferring it to our baking dish. It makes a huge amount of pasta too, by the way. This is such a good recipe, and we need cheese. Cheese is life. This is just the grated mozzarella. You could grate your own, but I am too lazy. Here's the other one I made, just so I could have proof. And this is what they look like when they come out of the oven. So good, so good. Once again, do not forget to write your instructions on the outside of your freezer meals. Meal 3 is gonna be this big old rice ball recipe I found by Skinny Taste. If you don't know who Skinny Taste is, she's a blogger who does all these lightened up versions of your favorite foods. And this is that like Italian, I wanna say it's arancini, I'm probably saying that wrong. It's like a big cheesy rice ball bake. That's the only way I can explain it. I'm putting my rice cooker on and starting to chop onions, my favorite thing to do. I'm having a little cry. I'm oiling up 2 pans, and I'm gonna use these chicken sausages because they were on sale. The original recipe calls for Italian sausage. You can use whatever kind of sausage you feel like paying for right now. The Italian sausages are like $15 a pack, so chicken it was. That's really gross to look at. I'm so sorry, but I peeled the casing off, all that pack of sausages, and I start to break it up with my wooden spoon. This is what it looks like once you've broken everything up. We're gonna add in that onion we chopped up earlier and just let all the flavors meld, brown up a bit. Next up, I'm just eyeballing this, but it's probably about a half a cup of frozen peas, and using about a cup of this Dolmio pasta marinara sauce. It was just the cheapest one I could find at Pack and Save. And let all those flavors kind of simmer together while we work with the rice. So this is a little over 4 cups of cooked rice. I just chucked it in my rice cooker. I don't know how to make rice otherwise. There's about a cup of grated Parmesan, and I'm adding some more marinara. I think it's probably about half a jar. And 4 eggs. Mix everything together until it gets nice and sticky. So I'm just spraying both these pans before putting in some breadcrumbs. It's gonna make the base kind of crunchy. Just roll them around in there a bit. It's probably about a 1/4 cup. And we start this whole process of putting down the cheesy rice, making it flat as possible. So you're sort of making a bed for the sausage mixture. We use about half the mixture before we put in our sausage mixture. Okay, so that giant pot of rice, use half of it on the bottom, and then we're gonna cover the top once we've got all that sausage in there. So before we put that last layer of rice, we're gonna actually put a layer of cheese. Hooray! This is just grated mozzarella. It's almost like doing a rice lasagna, right? So that rice goes on top to cover up the cheese and the sausage, and oh my god, this is such a good recipe. Even my kids ate it up, and that's always a 10 out of 10 when my kids eat something and don't throw it on the floor. So to finish this dish off, we're just going to top with the rest of whatever marinara you have, pasta sauce lying around. Spread that around, some more cheese because cheese is everything, and of course some breadcrumbs just to make it a little bit crunchy. Now I'm cooking one right now, so I'm just gonna cover it in foil and pop it in the oven. But for the other one, I'm actually not gonna bake it. I'm going to put cling wrap on and then sort of try and get all the air out and then tightly wrap with the tin foil before I write my instructions and chuck it in the freezer. The last thing I'm making for the freezer today is pizza dough. Pizza dough is so easy to make and it lasts really well in the freezer. And we eat so much pizza. So I've memorized this recipe, but I think it's from the Pioneer Woman. I'll put it down below. It's 2 teaspoons of sugar, 4.5 of active yeast, and you're gonna add 2 cups of almost boiling, not quite boiling, hot water. I usually set the kettle and then let it sit for 10 minutes before I add it in. And you let this all sit for 10 minutes until it gets all nice and foamy. After 10 minutes, it should look like this. And that's when you start adding in all the flour. So I use high grade flour. It's good for breads and pizzas, etc. Just kind of eyeballing it. I mean, you can always add more flour later if it feels like it's getting sticky. 1/4 cup of olive oil and a teaspoon of salt, and that's your base recipe. And this makes 4 decent sized pizzas. If you had a bread machine, this would probably be a lot easier, but I don't. So I'm doing it the old fashioned way and using a wooden spoon and just kind of kneading it forever with my hands because that's how we roll around here. It's all right to get dirty every now and then. Sticky rather. Yeah, so I'm just doing this for probably about 7 to 10 minutes until it gets nice and kind of like elastic and glossy like that. After you finish with that, you wrap it with some cling wrap and just wait 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, it should have risen and you can kind of punch it down. It should be sort of sticky like that. I'm going to add some more flour, roll this bad boy out, knead it for a little bit longer. Make sure you have enough flour before separating it into 4 different doughs. I'm going to roll these into nice little rolls. I'm tired, can you tell? I've been watching my son all day and he's trying to help me. It's really cute, but he just wants to play with it. He thinks it's Play-Doh. Since these are going straight into the freezer, I'm going to wrap them first in baking paper or wax paper before I put them in so that they don't touch each other and get super sticky. And anytime I want to use one, I just pull a single one out and defrost it. And that's it for the video today. So thank you so much for watching and subscribing and listening to me rattle on and cook. I hope you learned something, and I'd be curious to know, do you make freezer meals? Let me know your favorite one below. Bye!